Welcome, reading two. Oh my gosh, I almost introduced myself and said I'm the magical medium in my whole little spiel. That's interesting. So maybe some of you are new here, and I don't know. Sometimes I feel like they're gonna have me put these all public. I feel like Spirit's got a little grand plan going on behind the scenes. So anyway, welcome to your reading. If you chose the past life and this shell, so I'm gonna have you look at this. I'll tell you your question in a minute, but look at that. Oh, look at all the texture on that. Look at how much is happening on there. Also looks like a little heart in that. Doesn't it look like a little heart? A lot happening here. Also, I'm gonna put a little water on it because it's gotten dry. I want you to see. Look at that. Do you see that? See what happens when you just put a little water on it? It turns into beautiful. I feel like that's you guys. Ooh, look at that. Look at like the multiple layers. Do you see that? This is like how I feel like you guys are, like you're multi-layered. Well, I'm excited to jump in here because for those of you who chose this, your question is, what is my purpose? And when I was asked this question from Spirit, I heard from Forrest Gump when he's like, "What's my destiny, mama?" Right? I just got the chills because you're like, what's my purpose? You're like, what is it? What is it? You're like, I've meditated, I've prayed, I've blah, blah, blah. I've been working as a Reiki. I've been, sometimes I'll read things from, they're having me move these around. So that's for probably because you're getting downloads from the crystals. But I will read certain things or certain things will come into my orbit and I will just crack up at other light workers because, they're like, I'm doing the work. It's, if you've ever seen the movie What About Bob, he's like, I'm baby stepping, I'm doing the work, and I feel like you guys are like, what the fuck, man? Isn't this my purpose? Isn't it my purpose? Well, maybe your purpose has changed. Sometimes in this lifetime, we do one. Also, I can't seem to get comfortable. And this, I was getting this energy from reading one too, so I'm moving around. But I got the same energy from reading one. So if you were drawn to reading one as well as reading two, I highly suggest you go back there. In fact, in reading one, they Spirit pulled for those in this moment to go to reading two, and I'm like, guys, I haven't even done reading two yet, so like I couldn't even tell you what it is. So if you were feeling drawn to that, then I would definitely go. And they're so starkly different, like honestly, like already, you know what I mean? Just like the altar, the whole thing, the setup of the reading. But what's interesting is I feel like some people, it's like, don't fear the reaper, right? Like I feeling like from Spirit is they're like, don't be afraid of your past life. And for some of you, and it's okay because everybody's working from their own level of consciousness. But I feel like for some of you, you were maybe walking with a guru or somebody who maybe freaked you out about a past life, or maybe you've been living in a download from a past life and like staying on a loop there where you were only meant to go and learn lessons and now you're meant to pull out of it, if that makes any sense, right? So I don't know if you know what, I'm not going to say it right now. If Spirit calls me to, I'll do like a shorts about it or something. But right now I started to go in one direction and I'm hearing like not now. So I don't know if that's in this reading or later. And I know that can be really irritating, but trust me, it was just an analogy of something. It was no, like, I'm not keeping anything from you. You know what I mean? I do want to dig in though, because I feel like your cards are, or I feel like you guys are really chomping at the bit. Let me move this around so this will stop making noise. I got the shells set up for the other readings as well. And if you were pulled to any of the other readings, by all means, go and check them out. There's always a reason for it, especially because these 5 questions were all in one meditation. There were more than 5 questions too. So these were just the ones that Spirit called for me to put together in this reading. And it's only because we're all at different levels of consciousness and we're all at different, levels of spiritual evolution, which is basically the same thing, but just a different way of saying it. Is just this, it's the awareness, it's the mindfulness, it's about being present and understanding like what's really happening. It's about taking fear away from things. It's about being open, not being afraid of looking at things and who you are. So let's get into this. So Spirit, what is my purpose? Can you give us the purpose? What is reading 2? What is their purpose? on this planet at this time. Okay, this one came out. Ooh, biblical. So some of you are living in some biblical karma. Now, all that means is if you found yourself here, most likely you are a spirit warrior, light worker, whatever terminology you want to use for yourself. It's personal. But I feel like for some of you in the biblical times, you turned away from your gifts because it was easier, even though you were miserable and it looked like you were like, I mean, you had a job, so that's good. You know what I mean? Like you were working. You can see there in the imagery, that you're working. And you were working with your hands. So it wouldn't surprise me if some of you work with your hands now. But I'm hearing pottery. So it's interesting because he's got a chisel and a hammer, which would be the opposite of pottery, right? Because pottery's fragile. You know what I mean? So I don't know what that means. So I'm just going to, whatever comes out. Okay, Grecian Roman or Greco-Roman, which is basically the same. Okay, so look at that. Like there's something going on here too. So there's a tie there. I'm feeling a lot of pain and suffering though. Like almost like you're the one that built this, right? Like you built this, you probably designed it and built it, but got no fucking like credit for it. You know what I mean? Like that was just your job. You should be so lucky to fucking build the palaces of, the Romans and, whatever. I'm also feeling like a lot of heavy Jesus energy. Like you would rather walk the low road. You know what I mean? Meaning like not the high road where you really were meant to be kind of thing, but you took the low road every time, just like yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, or whatever. And this because it's a masculine in the card, I'm definitely feeling like that. So you yourself were masculine, or you had a lot of masculine energy, and maybe you were a really strong woman but you couldn't like speak your truth at the time, but you were an artist or a creator. It could have even be pottery. It could be something that you were really into with the pottery, but the pottery keeps coming up. So what is my purpose? It could even be for some of you, like that's your purpose. It could be as trivial as that. You think it's trivial, but like I was watching this movie yesterday and these people were actually doing pottery, which is so fucking weird because it was such a random movie, you know what I mean? But like they were doing, it was like a, love movie, and this couple went to go take this pottery class or whatever. And in the end, they ended up creating, what they created, and they had this auction, and nobody knew who made what. But the guy made this bowl, and he actually like it was looking really nice, but then he hit his hand, and it kind of made a dent in the bowl. And so they never said anything about it. But then when they had the auction, they showed the bowl, and it was beautiful. And the way it was glazed and the colors and stuff, it was actually really fucking cool. It looked like a piece of art. And this woman came by, and she like started the bidding, and it became a bidding war. And all of a sudden, because it was at an art gallery, everybody saw it as art. It wasn't a mistake. It was something really special. It was something really beautiful. Actually, even I said, I go, I would fucking bid on that too. I'm like, it is pretty. Like just everything about it was really beautiful. And it was so flawed. And I'm like, yeah, but you can actually use that for a lot of different things, And so it was just really neat. And it's really in the way you look at things. So, don't think like, oh, my purpose is just to make pottery. Maybe it is. Maybe it is something like that. Maybe, building things. Maybe you love to build things. Your purpose, just because you're spiritual, doesn't necessarily have to be, Reiki or readings or things like that. I had someone in my life, and they were just coveting all the time. I couldn't handle it. I had to let them loose because they would say things like, I love your gifts, or I want your gifts. And I'm like, I think you do have gifts like mine. And like, I don't, I try and it's not happening. And they get upset. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe the gifts you are meant to have, you're blind to because you're coveting mine. You're jealous of mine. But you know what? Tell me, come live in my life for a minute. Yeah, it's fucking cool in some ways what I can do, but in other ways, I fucking hate it. It's hard. It's hard. It is harder than people will ever fucking know unless you're like me. And so, when you're like, you're coveting something, but you don't know what's really going on behind those doors. So, if the coveting and the jealousy thing has been coming up a lot for our tribe in the last several months. And I feel like it's because we're at the end of it. Whenever you watch this, it's timeless, but in real time, it is in Pisces season. We are still in the Piscean moon, right? This is the 7th phase. This is about transition and forgiveness. So you need to get out of that, whatever that is. You need to let it go, transition out of what was and forgive it. Or maybe it's like a lost something that you'll never do. But you never know either, because somebody said to me one time in recent years, well, you don't have to, you'll never be a parent or something like that in this lifetime. And I'm like, well, you don't know that. And they're like, yeah, well, most likely you won't. I mean, you're 50. And I was like, yeah, but I may choose to adopt when I'm 60. And if I have money and I have, a secondary someone who will take care of them, to make sure that they're safe, or you have a plethora. I'm sure I'd have a list of people who'd be, very glad to help take care of this child. But either way, I was like, if that's what's meant to be, if I'm blessed with that in this lifetime, then I will take it. It might even just be a baby animal, or you know what I mean? Like it could just be end up, where I have where I just rescue animals or people, you know what I mean? Like, but not in that way. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, maybe I'm just a placeholder. It's like, we never know. But if we limit ourselves by saying, I want this one thing, and if I don't get this one thing, then blah, 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 it's like, yeah, but you don't know what you are stopping the flow of. And for some of you, I'm getting the vibe that this is like from a past life in biblical times. There's something, either that or like in something with the Greco-Roman. You have something connected with that. Also, I thought it was really interesting. These two cards would not stop staring at me. They like kind of flew out. And so here's I'm going to give you sorry, that's a hair hanging from my shirt. Here's the imagery. And then the words are knighthood and father. So remember, we were just talking about masculine energy and that biblical image. And it could even be like maybe your father or your father's father or something. It could even be for some of you like the knighthood. There's a connection there too. What do knights do, right? They fight for the good of all, for justice. I mean, look at the unicorn on here, right? Like the unicorn and the lion. You may want to work with those spirit animals. Also, in reading one, the lion, there were two spirit animals that came through, and one of them was the lion. So I would work with this spirit animal, the lion, right now while you're focusing on your purpose, And also in the community section, there'll be a screenshot of the meditation that I took this from. If you're interested in doing the whole thing and doing all of the questions yourself, maybe you want to watch all these readings, or maybe you just want to go back in and see what the other questions are so you can work through them on your own, whatever is meant for you. But definitely we've got some daddy issues going on here. And I'm feeling even interesting because this little arm always felt like a little girl's arm to me. I don't know why, maybe because I had my father issues, but it's interesting how today it feels like a male. So it could even be if you are female identified, but you're like really masculine. It could be like you have issues with your father, but I definitely feel like the knighthood is interesting. I kind of feel like I want to sit with that for a minute, because remember when I said at the beginning that Forrest Gump was like, "What's my destiny, mama?" I feel like for you guys, like there's something really powerful happening here with your destiny. And you need to know what your purpose is, but in order to do that, you need to clean out the clutter. You've got to forgive it, transition out of that energy. And if it's a father or somebody who did you wrong or whatever, forgive it. And if you have, I know you're going to probably not understand this if you're new, but if you have the blessing of your parent, your father, who's passed over, you can definitely talk to them. But if they're still alive, you can talk to their higher self in meditation. You absolutely can. And you can even ask your father, their higher self, what questions or what would be a good way to start a conversation with your father about something. It could be that maybe you don't want your father's business or something. You know what I mean? Like, I just think it's interesting because this biblical and like this feels definitely like work. There's something there. There's definitely something there. And with the Greco-Roman, like the fact that he's like making, like you can see where he's like something where he's building something. And this is about building something. This could be about a home. Once you find out your purpose, you'll find your home. you know? And I feel like for some of you, you're like wanting your dad or it's, you know, someone else to sort it out for you. And they're like, no, you have to do this on your own. Also, because it's a 7th moon cycle, I'm getting like the number 7 is coming through a lot too. Okay, is that it, Spirit? I feel like that's it. I know it's kind of like short and sweet and to the point, but yeah, I mean, right now, transitioning out of whatever is your blockage, forgiving it, but genuinely forgiving it. Because when you genuinely forgive, I'm bringing the candle in because, you know, the candle always, you want this energy, right? I'm going to put this in front of the Father. Because once we finally forgive, and let go of the past and stop being so guarded, wearing a mask, right? Like, I know that that's for protection and you're wearing a mask for protection, but it's not helping you find your purpose. If you're living in the past and you're staying in the past, it's like your present and your future is right in front of you. I heard this amazing quote in a movie yesterday, and after I heard it, I was like, oh, I'm never going to forget that. It was so powerful. And in this moment, I couldn't tell you what it was. But it was just a really beautiful analogy of like, you know, isn't it exciting though that like the past is done? Now we have right now and we have something to look forward to. But if you're in the past, you can't look forward to the future because you're still stuck there in the past. And I just got the chills. So I feel like that's Spirit saying to you guys. And also being a unicorn, being a freaky weirdo, you know, that's what this tribe is made of. And thank you guys so much. If you didn't watch the intro video, thank you so much for subscribing and liking and commenting and talking with the tribe. It's really helping, and we are really growing in numbers as spiritual warriors. And that's okay. If you feel like you're a spiritual warrior, that's fine. But if you're not progressing in a certain way, it could be because it's, yes, that's part of who you are, but maybe it's not your sole purpose. It's just what you have, right? You know, it's like we all have telepathic skills. And people are like, oh man, that's cool. You're a telepath. I'm like, we're all telepaths. It's just that I know I know it. I don't know how to explain what I know and who I know or how I know or whatever. And sometimes like when people don't listen to me and I'm concerned for their safety, I'll be like, please. I'm like, you can heed this advice or not heed this advice. But like, please, you know, I'm like, listen. And I feel like this is what Spirit's saying to you. Like, listen to who you are. Listen to your soul. Let go of the past and the control. Let it go. Also, for some of you who are drawn to 3, just like 1, I haven't done 3 yet, but if you're drawn to 3, I like suggest you go and check it out because right when I was saying that, I was like in this world with Spirit, and then I looked down to the deck number 3, and it's called Mind Body Makeover, and that's what we all need right now is a mind body makeover. So in the end of this Piscean energy, allow yourself, you know, and even whenever you watch this, work with this energy. We're at the end of the astrological year. The 12th house, we're moving quickly through it. You can feel it. We can all feel it. Before we know it, Aries will be here. And then you can take action. But for now, right now, just like work on what you're working on. Okay? All right, let me make sure there's no more cards. Any more cards, Spirit? Okay, no. Throat chakra, work with your chakras and your throat chakra. As soon as you allow yourself to speak your purpose into being, everything will fall into place. But if you're afraid of it, if you're ashamed of it, if you push it away, it will never happen. And you'll keep in that same loop of the past. But you don't belong there. You belong in the present. So you can secure a beautiful, bright new future for you and the world. We need you. You're a knight. And you've been doing this a long time. So conserve your energy. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and each other. I love you so much. Blessed be. Oh.